Boy, there is a lot going on. Day 23 of the government shutdown is here, and there is no end in sight. Josh Hawley, Missouri senior U.S. Senator, is joining us on KCMO in Kansas City. Senator, good morning. What is your over-under on when this shutdown is going to end?
Geez, I don't know, Pete. I can tell you I've had my fill of it, and I know that every single person in our state has. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The idea that our veterans right now go to the VA, be told, sorry, government shut down, all the services you paid for can't get them. Farmers, you go to the ag offices, they're closed. You can't get the status of your loans. Folks who need help with Medicare, Medicaid, this is not available. I mean, it's absurd. It's totally absurd. It's gone on 23 days too long, and it needs to end immediately.
So we had on Mayor Quinton Lucas here in Kansas City earlier this morning, and he said, well, if President Trump is the great negotiator as the art of the deal, why can't he get a deal done? And he and I went back and forth on this, but what would you say when it comes to whether or not Republican leadership should be negotiating right now with Democrats and what that needs to look like?
Well, the president has said he's willing to negotiate. I mean, listen, I'm all for negotiations, and I've been saying myself, I'm happy to talk to any Democrat and hear them out on whatever it is. I mean, this temper tantrum of literally denying health care to our veterans, to our seniors, trying to bankrupt our farmers. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand why they are hurting people like this. Pretty soon, the needy in our state who rely on food to help feed their kids are not going to be able to get it. I mean, really, this is what it's come to. People now are literally going to go hungry because of this temper tantrum in Washington, D.C., but listen, I'm all ears. If somebody has a suggestion, people want to negotiate, I'm happy to do it. I just saw the president in person day before yesterday, and he said the same thing. Make him an offer, for heaven's sake. But here's the real truth, Pete, is that the Democrats aren't interested in negotiating. They're not negotiating at all. They haven't made an offer. They haven't made a suggestion. They are the ones who closed the government, and they want it closed.
You know your colleagues obviously well in the Senate. Do you see any way there are 6 Democrats that can come across and get you to those 60 votes anytime soon? Some of the more moderate ones, the ones that are left, or no?
Doesn't seem like it to me. It seems like to me they've made a calculation. And, Chuck Schumer said the quiet part out loud just the other day when he said, oh, every day it gets better for us. I mean, it doesn't get better for the American people, though. I mean, it doesn't get better for kids who now are going to go hungry, literally, because they cannot get food stamp support. It doesn't get better for our veterans. It doesn't get better for farmers. I mean, it doesn't get better for seniors. Pick a taxpayer who's still out there paying their taxes and yet not getting the services that they are paying for. I mean, if the Democrats were really serious about fairness, they'd be prorating everybody's taxes and they'd be providing Americans what they pay for. They're not doing any of that because they just want to hurt Donald Trump. They think this is the way to do it, but the only people they're hurting are the American people.
Senator Josh Hawley is here on KCMO. So I know, Senator, that you have introduced a bill to fund SNAP benefits. That's, of course, the food stamp program during the duration of this shutdown. Well-intentioned, but is there a concern on your end at all that if Republicans voted against this, more out of principle to say, hey, the government is shut down because of the Democrats, we're not giving them a lifeline, are you afraid that could backfire on Republicans?
Oh, no, I don't think Republicans would vote against it. Who's against feeding kids? And by the way, we just reformed the SNAP program. We just reformed the food stamp program to make sure that there's the waste, fraud, and abuse is cut out of it. We just did that 3 months ago. So this just shows you where the Democrats are, that they would prefer not to have needy folks in our state be able to eat, just like they're keeping the VA closed, just like the military is about to miss a paycheck. I mean, thank goodness the military got paid a couple weeks ago. That's because of Donald Trump. That's no thanks to the Dems. The Dems would just assume that every military service member in our state, there's a lot of them in our bases and installations, not get a paycheck, not be able to make rent, not be able to take their kids to the doctor. I mean, you talk about the party of radical extremists, and, they're always saying, oh, we're warm-hearted. Hardly. This is all about power, Pete, and it's all about trying to punish Donald Trump.
So where do you draw that line, though? Like, what if you say, hey, we're going to introduce another bill that's going to handle this, or it's going to pay the military coming up here for the next paycheck? I mean, does that defeat the whole purpose of what we're talking about here with the government being shut down and really putting a pause to everything that you and I have talked about over the last few minutes here?
Well, we're going to vote today, as a matter of fact, in just a couple of hours on paying the military and on paying Border Patrol, paying law enforcement, paying ICE. I'm all for that. I'm going to vote to fund those people. I don't want them going without pay. I don't want our military going without pay. I don't want our kids not being able to eat. I mean, I want the government to be open and to be working. After all, everybody's paid for it in our states. But here's what I predict. I predict the Democrats will again today vote not to pay the military, pay Border Patrol, pay ICE, pay FBI agents. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I bet not. I bet they vote to say no to all of those people. And I think we ought to just keep voting, Pete. Vote to reopen the government. Vote to fund our military. Let's put them to it.
So where does that money come from if the government's shut down?
The president had funds available in the Department of Defense budget, emergency funds that he could tap for one-time use. And he tapped them. You know, he did that 2 weeks ago now, a little more than. And that's the problem. I mean, October 31, the military is supposed to get paid again all over the country, all of our active duty servicemen and women. And we're talking about a lot of people in Missouri, a lot of people. And he used those funds. I mean, the president, to his credit, he also paid FBI agents. He paid Border Patrol. And he did that using funds he had at his discretion. But, you know, those funds are, as I understand it, largely tapped out now. And it's just a travesty what the Democrats are doing here. It's just ridiculous.
Josh Hawley is on KCMO. So, Senator, you've seen the conversation going on with our cattle ranchers. Do we import beef from Argentina? That's something the president has floated out there over the last couple of days. He put up a post yesterday saying the cattle ranchers who I love don't understand that the only reason they're doing well for the first time in decades is because of the tariffs I put on cattle coming into the United States. It would be nice if they understood that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. What do you think the answer is here when it comes to making sure cattle ranchers continue to have success while at the same time trying to bring beef prices down at the grocery store?
Oh, I love the cattle ranchers. You might remember, Pete, I'm married to one. I'm married to a cattle girl. Grew up on a ranch and still has that ranch. They've done that for 6 generations. So I love cattle ranchers. And in all seriousness, listen, we're one of the top beef producing states in the nation, usually second or third. And nobody does it better than our ranchers in Missouri. And they've had to suffer for decades now with prices that have been just basement low. I mean, just basement low. Our herd levels right now, in terms of where they are nationwide, are at their lowest levels in 50 years, which is one of the reasons the price has trended up higher. I'm all for making sure that cattle ranchers can get a fair price. They're not the problem. The problem are the packers, the monopolists. You know, we only have one domestic packer, meat packer left in this country, Pete. The other 3 big ones are all owned by overseas entity. They're all foreign. And what they have done for years is charge consumers more at the grocery store, screw the cattle ranchers, and take the profit. And they're continuing that. So I'm all for getting prices down. The way to do that is go after these middlemen, these monopolists, again, most of them foreign, who are really, I think, profiteering right now. The cattle ranchers, they're not doing anything wrong, for heaven's sake. I mean, it's great to have ranching families finally be able to get a little ahead here and make a decent wage, make a decent income. So I think we got to go after the middle guys and make them pay for this.
You know, and I'm sure, you know it well, obviously, being married into it. And just talking to some ranchers over the last couple of days, they have said that they are, doing well, really well for the first time in a long time. So then what does that look like when it comes to figuring out how to cut that price down and, as you say, break up that monopoly in the middle? What does that look like from the federal level, if anything at all?
Well, it looks like it's got to come from the feds, and it looks like antitrust action on behalf of the Justice Department. I think they need to move on this quickly, and I've been urging them, by the way, to do it for literally years. I've been urging an antitrust inquiry and antitrust prosecutions against these packers, and I just renew those calls now. The other thing we've got to do is get input prices down. This is true for all of our farmers, whether we're talking about our ranchers, whether we're talking about soybean farmers, corn, wheat, cotton in our state. The input prices, this is what it costs to plant, to farm, or to use fertilizer, extraordinarily high. And we've got to get those prices down, which will help then get costs down across the board. But I can just tell you, right now, you hear sometime from the libs who hate farmers that, farmers are doing great. No, they're not. On the whole, farmers are really hurting, really, really hurting. And that's one of the reasons, Pete, I'm introducing today legislation that would use some of that tariff money. This is actually the president's idea. Use some of that tariff money, which is coming in gangbusters, and use it to help our farmers who are getting targeted by these other nations as retaliation as part of the tariff back and forth.
So, and that would look like what? Basically a subsidy, a reimbursement? How would you calculate that and what that is?
You pay it out through. You pay it out through that. The president did this in his first term. He mentioned actually not long ago that he'd like to do it again. He thinks that the farmers who are getting targeted by China in particular, by several other foreign nations, they're getting just a tariff, just the heck tariffed out of them. And the way you do it is you would divert some of that tariff income, some of the tariff revenue. I say divert it. You just use it in order to say, hey, farmers, we don't want you all to go bankrupt. I mean, we've got the second most family farms of any state in the nation, Pete, in Missouri. I don't want a single family farm to go bankrupt, let alone half of them. Mm-hmm. So we've got to do something now, and I think this is the way to do it.
We'll be following today Senator Josh Hawley on KCMO Talk Radio. Senator, always appreciate your time. Thank you for the update, and we'll be watching here on KCMO. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Josh Hawley on 95.7 FM. We are streaming, as always, on the iHeart app, the TuneIn app, or our own KCMO Talk Radio app.